Today on Technado, we'll be talking with ITProTV's Joe Peacock about how to become an ITIL trainer. We're also going to look at some news, including some malware attacks to start the new year and satanic corgis. That's all coming up on the Technado, starting right now. Hello and welcome to Technado. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, and I am joined today by, well, two folks here. We have Don Pizzette, who you know and love and are used to seeing, and we have Joe Peacock. Joe, how you doing?
Absolutely great. Thank you, Peter. How are you?
I'm good. Did you get everything that you hoped for this holiday season?
Well, that would be telling, wouldn't it?
Don, did you get everything that
you... that sort of information.
I got all the coal that I asked for, every bit of it.
Any cool tech gifts?
You know, it was pretty light tech year. I had new headphones. That was my thing. I had my headphones were getting worn out, so I wanted new headphones.
I got my daughter one of those. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's this little robot, but you can actually program it. So there's an iPad app where you're learning some basic, structure of do this, if then kind of statements. And
so at the time, it looks like almost like a little forklift.
No, there's that one, and
okay.
then this one looks like four spheres that are kind of stacked, and it's like a single eyeball on top, and it rolls around and test stuff.
Now that looks quite cool, actually. I think I want to play that. I got a Nintendo Switch.
Oh, see?
Ooh.
But then I bought that for myself, to be honest, because I wanted to play.
Yeah, those are always the best gifts, are the ones that you get for yourself.
But then I did get down a black hole watching that Bandersnatch movie as well. So I mean, that was my Christmas summed up.
Yeah, I haven't watched the Blindfold movie yet. Is it?
The Bird Box. We were talking about that earlier today.
Yeah. And I hear today that Netflix is warning people against doing the Bird Box challenge, which is doing everyday tasks with a blindfold on, like riding the escalator or crossing the street. I'm
actually going to record ITIL 4 with a blindfold on. I have decided that is the ITIL challenge.
I'm going to watch Bird Box with a blindfold on.
So is this going to turn into a thing? Like there are regular human beings right now who are preparing for a zombie apocalypse that we all know is never actually going to happen because zombies are made up, right? So are people going to start wearing blindfolds preparing for this demon invasion that also is not real?
Like I said, I haven't seen it yet.
I think you find out of it.
I just thought it was people wearing blindfolds.
I haven't seen it, and I know there's monsters in the woods.
I didn't see a zombie. But then I think the whole point of that movie is the fact that you don't actually see the monster.
Can we stop telling me what happens?
And when Sandra Bullock dies, it is
so
movie. Graphic. It's
all right, well, let's get to our first news article. Actually, so we're going to talk with Joe here in a little bit about how you can become an ITIL trainer and take her job. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about the news that's happened over the last week or so. And our first article is from the LA Times, which means that it all worked out because the article is a malware attack disrupts delivery of LA Times and Tribune papers across the U.S. So maybe it just disrupted the people who actually get the paper. Is that what happened here, Don?
You know, the news that has come out on this story has been so convoluted and mixed up, right? Because on one hand, some of the outlets are saying that this was a targeted cyber attack, specifically focused on the LA Times and the Tribune papers. But then, they'll say, like, it's a special ransomware that was crafted just to attack critical systems and servers. But then you start reading about all the instances of what actually happened, and a lot of their servers, like their website never actually went down. So the headline here, when it says it disrupts delivery of the papers, it's talking about delivery of the real papers, the actual tangible. Some of our listeners might not know that. The newspapers used to be thrown on your doorstep. Oh. And so that was disrupted because the system that people would use to upload articles to the printing press was basically locked down by ransomware. Now, I feel like, and this is just me with an opinion here, but I feel like this has all been sensationalized to a really grand level. Because to me, what it sounds like, when you start looking at all the details, it sounds like one person's computer got infected, and then it started infecting other computers. That happens to people all over the planet every single day. That doesn't mean it's a targeted cyber attack, but that's the way the news is pitched these days.
I just want to put that into perspective, and maybe it's because I'm old, but I seem to remember a time when these things that came out in black and white print.
On papyrus?
Yeah, those things. But surely when you talk about them being delivered to, the actual physical paper being delivered, what you mean is the physical paper being delivered to to stores and to shop fronts, you don't mean being delivered to individuals. So they never actually got hold of any sort of individual subscribers' details, personal details.
Right.
It would have just been other organizations. It
There's
would
more
have been stores.
disruption of service than trying to gather information.
right.
A denial of service would be a better way to
A
pitch
physical
this.
denial of service
And
attack.
I believe they even say here in the article what the actual pain finally was. Somewhere in here it says that like papers that should have been delivered at 4 a.m. ended up being delivered between 7 and 8 a.m. And
Oh, no.
again, by delivered, that means arriving at the distribution centers, not necessarily the customers' locations. Although customers usually get the newspapers pretty early in the morning, so I'm sure they were disrupted too.
So they got a bit of a lay-in.
Yeah. It said, here, papers that should have arrived in San Diego around 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. instead arrived at 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. So, catastrophic, really, when you think about it. I'm surprised they were able to get through.
There was a lot of complaining and people writing to their congressman, I'm sure, because that's what the.
Do you remember where you were
Yeah.
when the newspapers were delayed 4 hours?
I was still asleep.
Do you get the newspaper?
No.
Neither do
did
I.
not.
Do you, Joe?
No.
Yeah.
So what they ended
What's
up doing,
that? What's that? What's news?
they just sent, if they couldn't reach the printer, they just sent them to Shutterfly then and were able to print them remotely that way. So that's how they were able to get around all this.
It's actually kind of comical because in the article it goes on to say that one guy somewhere in here he says it, this guy found out that his computer could still upload files. And so everybody was coming to use his computer, which just means his was the only one that didn't get infected.
Yeah. He hadn't opened the email yet.
That's right.
I haven't seen the pictures from Jan's bridal shower yet.
Yep.
Well, no, he was too busy watching Bird Box on,
Exactly.
on Netflix instead of actually doing any work. Yeah.
Don't ruin it. We're not talking about
He's
that
trying to get to
anymore.
ending number 5 of Bandersnatch.
I think I got to that one and probably 27 as well. Yeah.
All right, well, let's switch gears to an actual attack then that seems to have actually affected real people. This one is on KTVB.com, which is Boise, Idaho. Okay, there we go. I had to find something on the site that said where this was from. We all know KTVB, of course. So this is an update. CenturyLink Internet has been restored with latency issues lingering, meaning that CenturyLink was for a time down. And this is one of the major, is this Backbone?
Oh, yeah.
CenturyLink
CenturyLink is one of the largest internet service providers in the United States, actually in the world. If you're on the West Coast, odds are you're using CenturyLink service. I know when I lived in Seattle, I was using, we used Quest, which got acquired by CenturyLink, so, it's all a very small world out there. But big deal for them to have an outage, especially a massive outage. This was not like a single city or even a single state. There were several states that were down, and 911 service was affected in a number of locations. So it was a huge outage. As a network engineer, I always like to listen out for when there's disasters like this because I like to hear about the cause. And you don't hear about that a lot. You hear, so-and-so had an outage and service is restored. It's fine now. Well, I like to hear about what actually went wrong. And when it's an outage this big, I kind of expected this to be another BGP routing table issue because we've been getting that a lot lately where all these routes get sent over to China by accident or Russia by accident. And so, that's what I expected here. Turns out that's not the case. They had a out-of-band management network, so a network dedicated just for the management of their devices, and a network card on that network started spewing malformed packets, and it overwhelmed the management network. So they couldn't actually connect to their devices to manage them. So when a minor outage occurred, they couldn't route around it, and then it became a major outage, and then it just spread, and it got worse and worse. And resetting a system wasn't enough until they were able to locate this one card. It actually came down to one network card that was blasting out bad packets.
Now, is this one thing just failing, or is this one thing being taken over by hackers and being caused to fail?
So reportedly, it is just one thing failing. It was a misconfiguration. So they use software-defined networking. That's a big buzzword these days, and it normally works well. But in this case, it was not. And because it effectively locked them out of their management network, they couldn't even get into the devices. They were having to send people on site. And when you're CenturyLink, you've got equipment all over the world. So sending people out and getting them on site to repair things, it's really hard. This is a whole failure contingency they never even planned on. It just caught them blindsided, and they were down for quite a while.
And Don, if we bring this article back up, there's a map midway down the page here that shows. I'm surprised if this is a West Coast network. Why is this affecting the East Coast as much as it did?
So CenturyLink is actually spread all over the U.S., but if you look, see how they're primarily a Western service, right? But they do provide services in markets like New York.
Oh, they do. Okay.
They actually have service in Tampa, Florida, So, not too far from here, but like Gainesville, we don't have any, or Georgia, they're just in Atlanta, because they'll have a point of presence there, so they have servers and things. And if you're trying to access resources, those were part of that management network. Those all went down as well.
But even local news stations in those particular areas were actually broadcasting messages to say, if you're trying to call 911, if you do have an emergency, you might not be able to get through. So try the non-emergency number, which of course, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't know the non-emergency number for our police or for an ambulance or the fire brigade if I need them.
912.
912, really? Yeah, okay.
I know if I have an emergency and I can't call 911, I call 1-800-ASK-GARY.
Sure. Gary will.
Does Alexa not do it
connect
for
me with
you?
someone.
Is that a Florida joke? Would our
I think that's a Florida
non-Floridians?
joke.
So in Florida, there's this really shady lawyer referral service.
I'm sure you have one of your own wherever you are.
Could Alexa not help us out with that one?
She probably could.
So the scary part about this one to me was that analog phone service was affected, and that's because so many trunks and the bridge servers and all that have switched to voice over IP, where you might start as an analog phone call, but you get converted over to a digital call at the call centers. So this was a massive outage, and now the FCC would be looking into it if they weren't shut down. The Congress is going to be doing an investigation. We'll see where it goes.
Well, and that's the silver lining from something like this, is that at least we can say, wow, if this caused 911 services to go down, there's a hole here where redundancies need to be put in place, and hopefully that's something that if we get a government again, we can go ahead and look into.
We should borrow a government from another country.
Are there ones not being used?
Yeah, the British one.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That's a good point. It's not being used now, not until Brexit, right? So
Right,
we can...
and even after that, I mean, I doubt it's going to be used much.
So I was just over there on the holidays, and I was watching a New Year's Eve program, and they said, if you just want to feel good about what's going on with British politics, just look to the U.S. So felt good about that we can help out our friends across the pond there. So all right, let's shift gears next over to Apple, and this article is on Gizmodo. What happened the last time Apple had a panic this bad? So if you aren't aware of the panic, we're kind of in a Bitcoin level free fall for Apple stock. Actually, that's not true at all. It's gone down, I think, 0.01% today. But basically, Apple has released a statement saying the earnings are not going to meet expectations, and that's based on emerging markets, specifically China, not buying as many iPhones that they're making for us. And I think that was basically it. It was emerging markets in China looks like the problem.
Now, I'm no financial analyst, so I'll throw that out there. But it is uncommon for Apple to miss their earnings numbers, and they were the first $1 trillion company a few months ago, and now they've kind of backed off of that. They're going through a rough patch. There's a lot of people that are attributing this to the U.S.-China trade war that's going on right now. iPhone sales are a part of it, but I'll tell you, I kind of feel like a good bit of this has to just be how unexciting the new iPhones, the new MacBooks, the new Mac Minis, like really 2018 did not introduce any new Apple hardware I cared about. And let's qualify this a little bit. So I use an iPhone. Peter, I know you use an iPhone. Joe, are you?
I'm Apple through and through. I mean, everything I've got, even down to my watch, the whole thing. But I have to say, I have spoken to so many colleagues here in our office, but also, friends around the world, and they are saying exactly the same thing, that Apple is getting a little bit boring, it's a little bit staid, we don't have any new toys from Apple, and we haven't had anything for quite some time now, and there's been nothing to actually wow anybody, and a lot of people are now moving to Android. Android seems to be the new Google phones. They certainly seem to be the hottest thing right now, and there are people out there that are trying to link up their Android phones with their MacBooks because they've got rid of that phone. So I don't actually think that it's just the phone. I think it's Apple technology as a whole is a little bit staid. I mean, you and I had a discussion a few months ago about sort of having a touchscreen on an Apple laptop. Now, I would love to have a touchscreen on an Apple laptop, and I've been able to have one on a Windows laptop for years. And yet Apple still decided that this
touch
nice
bar,
was going to replace that.
Apple has determined that you don't deserve it, because if you
That's
needed
probably
it,
actually,
they would have given it to you.
Yeah, you don't understand your own needs. That's really the message here. I do the 1 year upgrade plan on the cell phone. So because I like to have new phones, so I get a new one every year. I was upgrade eligible when the new iPhones came out, but I have an iPhone 10. The iPhone 10s is basically the same phone. So even though it was free for me, I didn't upgrade. Because it wasn't worth the hassle of transferring data, which is actually pretty easy to do these days.
Like a cable, right? Yeah.
It wasn't worth pairing it with the Bluetooth in my car again, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of people are probably out of that 1 year upgrade. I mean, I know a lot of people that have 6s and 7s still. And I mean, how long ago was that? 2 years? Over 2 years?
I've still got an 8.
An 8, yeah.
And I'm not going to upgrade. I didn't upgrade to the 10, and I haven't upgraded to the 10S because, to be honest, I don't see that it delivers any additional value over and above the 8.
let me tell you, as somebody who's upgraded, Face ID sucks so bad. I wish I had Touch ID back again. I could see going back to an 8.
It wouldn't want to recognize his face anyway, so we're good.
I've decided something must be wrong with my phone. 'Cause I mentioned it to my brother over the Christmas break, and he whipped his phone out and it just unlocked. He laid it on the table, it would unlock. It was super easy. And I said, well, here, let me show you mine. And I just could not. I have to enter in my PIN number at least 4 times a day.
There's definitely a "you so ugly" joke in there. How ugly is he? He's so ugly, even his phone doesn't recognize his face. I got no problem with mine. No.
So the article was what happened the last time Apple had a panic this bad, and the last time was way back in 2002. So 16 years ago, Apple had a stock panic. And Peter, what was it that happened in 2002? Where were you when the great Apple fell?
Well, that was the .com bust was going on, and so how did they fix it? The Apple powers that be got together and said, you know what, iPhone, let's make an iPhone, and it solved it. So what this means is in about 4 years or so, we're going to see something pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Like a 13-inch MacBook with 32 gigs of RAM.
No.
It'll be that amazing.
Like
maybe
Don's phone.
Maybe a touchscreen. No?
Like Don's phone can rest here into the touchpad area, become the mouse, and finally give Don his dream of a phone computer.
Let's be realistic, right? 4 years from now, Apple will release a laptop with no monitor, right? Because Johnny Ive says no, and no ports. It'll just be a keyboard on a metal slate, and it'll have a touch bar.
And you'll just think about
what you could be doing.
The data it's sending you.
You got to think different.
Yeah, that's different.
I love how we can all make fun of Apple when we're sitting here with a bunch of Apple products in front of us. Oh, actually, wait a minute. I'm on my System 76 laptop today because my Apple battery burst inside of my MacBook. So, yeah.
Wow.
Good times.
Did it explode?
No, it did not explode. But it will if I leave it be long enough. But
sure.
It's got an interesting shape to it now.
Oh, it kind of bubbled up.
The laptop won't sit flat on the table anymore. That's why I couldn't have it here for the show.
I'd like to see that. Why don't we have that in here? I want to see that.
Quality control.
All right, well, apparently, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, Microsoft had something bad happen with them because they've just hit us with their, I'm going to say equivalent to the iPhone.
I feel like this is almost our joke, like WTF article for the week.
It kind of is. And we'll get to that in a minute, but this is a real article with real words and facts. Over on Engadget, we have an article that Microsoft patent suggests you inhale whisper to your voice assistant. So it makes a good point that people are talking to their devices a lot more than they've been. And if you're on the subway, if you're out in public, maybe you don't want to be saying certain things out loud for everyone to hear. Could be sensitive information, could just be you don't want to be that rude person, probably not the second one. But they're suggesting that you whisper to your device, which sounds reasonable, and I'm sure it's probably something your devices can handle now. But no, they took it one step further, and they want you to inhale whisper, which is breathing in. And it said in here that that's because it has less chance of it being misunderstood. I guess it's clear.
It said it would be less likely to be distorted, which I didn't quite understand. I guess when you whisper, do you distort your words?
Well, maybe the air coming over the microphone or something can distort
I can see
how
that.
it hears. But we learned something because as we talked about this before the show, Don mentioned that he doesn't even know if he can inhale whisper, and he didn't yet try, so we can save it for the podcast.
Well, I've got to say that I have not even thought about this. I missed out on the conversation just before this podcast, and I've been thinking about it as you've been talking and looking at the diagrams that you had on your screen there,
Which I don't know how that says inhale whispering. There's an arrow somewhere, I'm
they
sure.
look as though at one point in time it looks as though that particular model is actually eating the gadget as opposed to talking to the gadget.
They say you have to hold it like less than 2 millimeters away from your mouth. And,
I don't know if we can see that back on the screen again. If we can, if we can see that it's. Yeah, I mean, what is going on? What is really going on?
You're basically putting the device into your mouth, and that's how you can talk to it. I mean, honestly, I don't know why they're not just using like bone conduction or something.
Yeah, we've seen that before.
But
now,
I know I can inhale whisper. I will often inhale whistle as well. I can whistle both ways.
So I've thought about this before, not in a tech sense, but are you familiar with the band Tenacious D?
Of course.
So there's a Tenacious D. It's not really a song, it's a bit where he is inhale singing. And so I remember that. I never tried it myself. And so the idea of inhale whispering, you wouldn't sound normal, right? I'll try it. That's order more horse tranquilizer.
See, I think you're trying to be very loud.
Right.
I think you're trying to be loud.
I need to leave right now.
Yeah. Alexa, start the song. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
are you inhaling when you do that?
Yeah.
Well, you sound normal.
It was much quieter.
I sounded like Super Dave.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try on camera.
Rest in peace, by the way. Super Dave passed away just a couple days ago. So didn't make the national news.
I don't know how we didn't cover that. Well, I think you're trying to whisper inhale as loud as you can.
As loud as I could, yeah.
Which I understand. This is a microphone, and there's people listening, and they want to know what you're saying. But do you want to give it a try?
No.
No,
not on camera. No.
She's been inhale whispering this whole time. You
Wow.
just couldn't hear.
I have.
Like,
Yeah.
That's how effective it is.
The only thing that could hear me is this sort of high-tech ring that I'm wearing that could actually pick it up from the desk.
Is your Alexa off right now?
Yeah, it's off. I can turn it on.
Do you want to turn it on and see if you can whisper, inhale, and get it to hear you?
I don't know if I can reach all the way over there.
Is that patent infringement?
I wouldn't know.
Well, I mean, there's a patent now. If it can hear you, then Microsoft can sue.
But see, then I would have to inhale whisper loud.
Which you already did.
Which I already did, yeah. Does Amazon sell horse tranquilizer?
Alexa. No, nothing.
It sounds super creepy, though.
It does. Is that what the bird box is about? I haven't seen it yet.
So if you're going to order duct tape or plastic bags, you can inhale whisper.
Is that how they talk in that, what's the other movie that was where they can't talk because
Silent Place?
Quiet Place?
Quiet Place.
Silent
Said
Night?
it.
Holy Night? Okay.
Quiet Place.
Quiet Place. Do you think they could whisper inhale to each other and be just fine?
The movie would have been a lot shorter.
I wonder if anyone tested that theory. Well, anyway, I don't think your Microsoft devices will do it quite yet. We don't know because we're all on Apple devices here. But if you have a Microsoft device, please put it in your mouth and let us know what happens.
This is why they've been pushing so hard to waterproof things.
Yeah. We have to get it to IPv6 or 7 so you can, please don't swallow as you're breathing in. Like, there's going to be a whole new set of people choking now on their Cortanas.
Well, like Figure 3C looks like they're putting on lipstick or something. Or
I think they're vaping. This is a
ring,
vape.
it just
I
looks like
don't
they're
need to
coughing.
see that again.
Figure 60 is it's a vape watch. It's just been released. Apparently. So anyway, that's exciting stuff coming from Microsoft very soon. Are those lips in 3B?
I think they are.
I think they are,
They
actually.
are.
Yes,
Okay.
they are.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't even know what that device is. But that's the thing. Yeah, there could be something cool new that is coming.
It's disturbing.
Coming near to a Microsoft store near you. All right, let's shift gears before we get ourselves in trouble here, and over to Android, who you cannot inhale whisper to. This is on AndroidPolice.com. USB Type-C authentication program gets started. Sounds like it's effectively DRM for Type-C devices. So does this mean that I have to pay to use my Type-C devices?
All right, so this one has a bit of a negative bias attached to the article.
does.
So if we take that away, what's going on is right now, you can buy a USB-C device from anybody, plug it into your laptop, it'll detect it and stuff will happen, right? Well, the problem is there are several types of malware that are out there right now where people can flash the firmware on a USB drive to actually infect it in its firmware. So, these USB drives, they effectively have an entire computer built onto them, kind of like the management engine in your CPU. So when you plug it in, if it's a a USB-C device, it just plugs in, it runs. You can't control it. As soon as power is supplied to that key, it starts doing its work. And there have been some malicious ones, like the Kill USB stick, where you plug it in, it sends a volt into your computer and fries the motherboard. So what they did is they started a program saying, what if we actually made it where there had to be a license attached to the key, so that when somebody plugs in a USB-C device, they have to validate the license before the device is allowed to actually do anything. This would prevent malicious devices and man in the middle, like there's those keyboard character sniffers where you plug them in between the keyboard and the desktop and they record everything. So this would effectively stop that. So that's the intent of the program. Now, it certainly could be used to say, well, from now on, if you manufacture a USB-C device, you've got to license it through this program. And the program is actually being administered through DigiCert, who, we use DigiCert for our SSL certificates at ITProTV and at Technado. I think we're on Let's Encrypt with Technado. Well, I can't remember. But we do use DigiCert for some of our commercial stuff. I like them. They're a good company. But anytime you put one company in charge of a registry like that, it sets up that possibility of blocking out independent people or hobbyists or whatever.
Or their competitors.
Or competitors, yeah. I mean, in theory, it could be like DRM. And so that potential is there. But, that potential is there with any technology, in my opinion. I think it's a good program. It's definitely got a good intent.
All right, so 2 questions. First of all, we're talking about this in terms of USB Type-C, but the things that you're saying can happen, that's any USB. That can happen with existing USB. They're just saying, hey, this is the new one. Let's get out in front of this, essentially. Okay. Now, let's see. I can't remember what my second question was now because I just asked that one.
Well, while you're thinking about it, the thing about a standard like USB 2.0 and 2.1, you can't go back and retroactively change a standard, so they can't bolt the stuff on. It has to be a new standard like USB 3.2 or 4.0 or whatever, and that's where we'll start to see that incorporate. Or it has to be something built into the operating system. So we'll see how this one ends up. But since it's hardware level, I've got to imagine it's going to be incorporated into a newer standard.
But I've got to imagine, though, that there are going to be people out there that are going to have their noses put out of joint by this. And there are also going to be, as you mentioned, local sort of independent people who are going to be creating, apps, programs, things like we saw sort of, is it the Amazon Fire Stick, Google Drive, that sort of thing. There are going to be people that are going to create applications like that and are not going to want to be tied down to this sort of thing. And so, how do they then operate in this world?
In a way, this is history repeating itself because we went through all this with UEFI BIOS years ago, where if you want your operating system to boot on hardware that's set for secure boot mode, you have to have a digitally signed certificate from Microsoft. And so the various Linux distros that were out there, and even Apple, Apple didn't really care. They just went and got a license from Microsoft. But everybody else was all up in arms about it. Microsoft ended up issuing free licenses to some of the well-known distros to take care of that so that you can boot up. But this is kind of the same thing, right? Is that your USB key would need to have a license to be able to be plugged in and activate.
Okay, I remember what I was going to ask. Does this mean that you have to be online? Like, is it checking against... Is it going off and finding, is this a proper developer, or is that something that's like that database is then stored locally?
So I'm not 100% positive because I haven't read the full standard yet, but if DigiCert is managing it, then it should be like SSL, where there is a trusted root authority somewhere, usually offline, right? So when you go for an SSL certificate, you can't actually talk to the root authority. But there's a digital signature that you check against to determine whether something is valid or not. And you can do that even without internet access, as long as that key is one that's trusted in your library and that handshake passes, it'll work even if it's offline. So I would assume, so I'll be clear here, I'm assuming, and we know what happens when we assume, but I would assume that it operates the same way, and that's why it makes sense to have somebody like DigiCert run it, in which case offline would not be a problem.
This just opens the door, though, for people selling, black market or under the table adapters for USB-C devices. It also opens the door for people selling software that's, completely open to actually unlock a lot of the USB-C devices.
Well, let's go full conspiracy here, right? You could buy an iPod. Well, I guess they don't sell those anymore, but an MP3 player, whatever. You buy one of these things that has a license on it, right? And then one day the vendor says, we're not going to support that device anymore, and they revoke the certificate.
Right.
Now the USB port's disabled. You can't plug in and use it anymore. So they can effectively take away hardware that you bought with your own money. That would be the really negative side of something.
And how does that tie in then to sharing? For instance, let's just say you wanted to share a device.
I think sharing's illegal these days, isn't it?
So
didn't
I
Congress
can't.
pass a law on that?
Oh, really? So I can't give you my USB-C device and say, here, look, you can borrow this for a couple of days?
If you do something like that, we have to build a wall.
Oh, well, just keep me out. Okay,
Make
I
the
get the
hackers
hint.
pay for it. For all of you tweeting to us right now, you can still buy the iPod Touch. It's available at apple.com/iPod-Touch.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, available in 5 stunning colors.
There's a nice shade of pink there as well.
A8 chip, 8 megapixel camera.
And you can still get the Zune on eBay.
Well, sure. Yeah, it's your local history museum. But what worries me about something like this is that maybe we start to go away from a standard too. That someone else says, "Oh, fine. If you're going to do that, I'm going to create my own port, the Peter port, and it's going to let's call it something else." But Apple has obviously made the decision for me that USB-C is what I need. Now I'm going to have just lightning.
I've got to pull it up.
One.
Whenever somebody mentions standards, I always think of the. There's an XK CD here. I got it on my computer. There's an XK CD strip about this. There's 14 competing standards. So somebody says that's ridiculous. We got to come up with one standard that everybody follows. So they do that, and now there's 15 competing standards. like that's what will happen.
Sure. Yeah. No, you're right. Well, hopefully, I guess hopefully this doesn't happen. Or hopefully people just stop putting bad things on USB-C drives.
There's a lot of businesses that basically disable the USB ports on systems. There's a lot of attacks that are out there, especially if you work in any kind of industrial control system. These are real risks. This would mitigate it. So there's absolutely a positive side to it, and there's a negative side. It's really up to us to be involved in that process to make sure that we get the positive aspects out of it. We'll see. Who knows where this will end up.
In my experience, give somebody a rule and somebody else is going to try and work around it.
Yeah. It can always happen.
It's gotten really sad here. So let's end with a couple of fun stories. Well, not if you're a traveler.
Fun stories.
But we had some drone issues the last couple of weeks. First of all, there was the drones over in Gatwick shutting down holiday travelers that we can talk about. But this one also from BBC.com, New York New Year drone plans scuppered by rain. So we were going to have drones dropping instead of a ball.
It was the police drones, wasn't it? They were supposed to be like surveilling the crowd, because what better terror target can you think of than the New Year's crowd in Times Square? So
that's actually very true. I thought you were going to say what better target than the drones themselves, because tell me that they can't be hacked into.
I'm sure they can. Actually, that did happen, didn't it? In the Afghanistan front, where the drones were sending video signal unencrypted, and people found where they could intercept the satellite transmission and actually see it. Like that happened.
Yeah.
So apparently, drones have the same vulnerability that the Wicked Witch had, which is getting wet. Because I don't think it's the water itself. They probably have they're probably well protected there, but just in the sense of maybe a driving enough rain can push something that's so lightweight down.
No, I think it's more to do with the camera, to be perfectly honest. You know what it's like. You say, I mean, come on, we work in the industry. If a camera gets wet or it gets moisture on it, you can't see anything anyway.
A little windshield wiper.
That's
yeah,
true.
Okay.
Well, when you get a phone or a watch these days, they say they're IP87 or something. I forget the number.
7, yeah.
So they're water resistant, but are drones? I don't own a drone, so I don't know.
That's a good question. I mean, a lot of them have those covers on them, so I think it all depends on what we're talking about.
What about water on the propellers?
Yeah,
if
it's
helicopters
rain,
can fly
could
in
weigh
the
it
rain.
down.
I mean, those are gas.
They've got an engine.
Well, we are obviously not the experts.
Do they fly helicopters in the rain?
Yeah, they fly helicopters in the rain. You think Vietnam, where they said, the rainy season, we're going to take this part off.
Military helicopters, I think, are one thing, but like a civilian helicopter wouldn't fly in the rain, would it?
I don't see why not.
I don't see why.
Yeah. Oh, we just
As long
got
as it's
word
not
from
too
the back that
windy.
yes.
Yes, we're told helicopters are flying currently, and it's raining.
Well, I just thought it was really interesting that following the Gatwick story, right? The airport in Gatwick in the United Kingdom, somebody. Did you guys follow the story? Like all the weird details that came out?
I was flying into Gatwick the next week, so I was watching.
So initially they were saying that somebody was flying 2 drones out over the airstrip. They had to shut the airport down. They ended up shutting it down for almost 3 days, I think.
Yeah, they had 67 people. Actually, I've got it up on Wikipedia right now. They had 67 people who reported drone sightings, and it affected 140,000 passengers and over 1,000 flights. 140,000 people who couldn't get in and out of the UK.
Yep, because of 2 drones.
Because of,
So they arrested a couple that lived near the airport that were drone enthusiasts. After a day, they cleared them. Turned out it wasn't them. They brought in the military to try and track down where these drones were coming from. The military couldn't find them. And then they started saying, well, actually, we don't have any evidence that there ever were any drones in the first place other than people's comments. Like, there's no pictures or anything. So now there's some doubt as to whether there were actually drones even there. It's a really weird story, the way the whole thing's going. But I just thought it was so crazy that rain can shut down drones can shut down an airport. This is like our new rock, paper, scissors. So I think airports need to be able to shut down rain. And well, that doesn't quite work either. So the whole game's a little off center.
Well, no, hang on. I watched a movie some point. Oh, it was probably a few years ago now. Weren't they sending up sort of technology into the clouds to dissipate rain clouds?
I know they can salt clouds to make it rain. Seems like they could dissipate it.
There's a dance you can
Put
do
a fan up there.
to make it
Now,
rain
this
as
I'd
well.
like to see.
And by the way, I went over to Google and I typed, can helicopters, and it said, fly in the rain?
Nice.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're not the only ones talking about this. So I'm over here on Quora, which is getting the best information. And yes, they can fly, and they just have the VFR rules, visual flight rules, and instrument flight rules. The same kind of things you have with fixed wing aircraft. But
9 out of 10 anonymous internet voters tell us that helicopters can fly in the rain.
it also suggests you have one of the helicopters with the doors, because otherwise you'll get very
Well,
wet.
you'll get wet.
Oh.
Yeah.
I added that part myself.
Okay.
But yes, I've never heard them say, "Oh, in this morning's traffic report, let's go to Chopper 1." Oh, no, it's raining, so
So he's
who
on
knows?
his,
Good luck
segue.
out there.
You mentioned doors, though. I don't think that doors. In fact, I don't think that doors are a good idea when it's raining, because when it's raining, you've generally got wind, and you don't really want doors, do you? Because doors, then they're sort of wind resistant, aren't they? You're going to get blown around everywhere.
So you want to just open with the?
Yeah, just wear something waterproof.
Oh, you know what? What? The Coast Guard. Haven't you ever watched them do one of those
What?
rescues out
Yeah.
there in Alaska when it's raining?
You know, Prince William was an air-sea rescue
was.
pilot.
We could ask him. Let's.
Helicopter pilot.
Do you know him?
What was that
Of
movie
course
with
I do. I've got his
Robin
personal
Hood?
mobile number.
What's it, Kevin Costner?
Robin
The
Hood
Guardian,
didn't have
yeah.
it. Doesn't have a helicopter.
It's like wait, Robin Hood was the character, or
This
the
is
actor
how I
who
remember
played
people.
Robin Hood. Okay, it was the movie with the guy from Tin Cup,
That's right.
the golfer, where he flies a
It
helicopter.
was a helicopter and there was water. That's all I know.
The Perfect Storm with Marky Mark and George Clooney.
Okay.
There was the helicopters in that one as well. Ashton Kutcher was I think he was in The Guardian as well.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like we've really gotten off track here. So let's get to our last story, because we've got some questions for Joe too, and this isn't a 2-week podcast. So this one actually came across this on 10 News from, I don't know, South Florida maybe.
Somewhere. Yeah.
WTF. Wow, WT Florida. So it's got WTF right there in the title.
WTSP.
Yeah, but under the video it says WT Florida. Anyway, so Florida billboard looks hacked with a satanic corgi and a naughty gorilla. So apparently, if you have, I'm sure you've seen those electronic billboards around now. That's kind of the new thing, that they probably a lot safer. You can change them really easy, and it's great, but you still have to go ahead and lock those down, because otherwise you get things like this. What do we got here? We've got
The gorilla.
Yeah. So what does the gorilla one say? It says, "Oh my God, it's Santa Claus right over there. Holy, oh man, I've been a naughty boy." And there's a gorilla. So what I don't like is these people figured out how to hack the billboards, and this is the best they could come up with.
Well, I was just about to say that. Are you kidding me that was the best they could come up
no,
with?
they've
Could they
come
not
up with
be a
some
little bit
others.
more imaginative?
So the corgi with
the corgi. Let's look at the corgi. It's got. I'm assuming this is an existing billboard that they just tweaked, but it says dog-friendly patio, the bistro, and then the corgi is thinking Satan is the one true God, as corgis do. We all know that's the Queen's dog, right?
It is the Queen's
I mean, not
dog.
that specific dog, but that breed.
What if it turns out the corgi's right? What if Satan is the one true God?
And that's how we find out?
That could be it. This could be the messenger.
That's rough.
I didn't even think that, and bearing in mind, I have quite a few pups. I didn't even think that dogs were capable of thought. Are they aware of a higher power?
They know when food is
thought.
involved.
Well, yeah, I mean, mine's
Yeah, I'm
only
sure
aware
they're
of
capable
food.
of thought, but yeah.
They're like Purina is the one true
I
God.
think we are the gods. We are serving them. I like the next one, the Water Oak Country Club, because it's subtle. It says, we're growing. We can only feel our power getting stronger. Soon we will be unstoppable, which is a great slogan. And then the last one it just looks like a bunch of lawyers saying, these people think connecting a billboard to the internet is a good idea. These people are wrong. And that's really the takeaway here, that, they're wrong.
Yep. So do you know how they fixed the problem?
They changed the default billboard password?
They turned the billboard off.
Okay, that'll work too.
They
works.
just turned it off. So this is a classic Internet of Things hack, right? That these industrial systems get connected to the internet. They're not very well secured. They use default passwords or no passwords, and people get in. I thought this was a pretty creative one.
To be perfectly honest, I do not understand billboards, and it's not that I can't read, because I can. But surely billboards are there just to cause accidents. Because if your billboard is really catchy or it's quite funny, then aren't you going to crash your car instead of actually driving? You shouldn't be paying attention.
No, the
to that.
billboards are there for when the accident happens. You have something to look at as you sit in traffic.
Oh, is that what it is? Right. Okay.
I
Especially the ones for the lawyers, right? Because after you've had the accident,
point.
you need that number.
And 1-800-ASK-GARY. That's right. Which again, if you're in Florida.
I didn't appreciate billboards until I drove on I-10 through Texas. So you can drive for an entire day on I-10 and still be in Texas at the end of the day.
That's
and
the east to west, just across the whole.
You might see 3 billboards, and it is so incredibly boring. Yeah, Florida has more. I read this, so this is my uncited fact of the day. Florida has more billboards than any other state. In fact, Florida has more billboards than the number 2 through number 5 states combined. That we have more billboards than everybody.
Going to Quora to fact check you. Florida, leads. This is from the Billboard Trade Group.
If you can't trust the Billboard Trade Group,
Florida
who can
leads
you
the pack
trust?
with a whopping 11,109 active permits on file for billboards. Wow. Orange County, Florida, has 801.
Orange County is Orlando, right?
Orlando, yeah.
that
That's
makes
for the
sense.
tourists.
International Drive has 799 of those down there in the Disney area.
What's that in just sort of 1 mile?
Yes, exactly. They're stacked vertically.
What,
So-
no, what if it's one of those rotating billboards? Does that
Does
count
that
as
count as-
one, or is that?
I think that counts as one permit. But
Oh,
but
yeah,
that's
it'd be
the
one
question, because these digital ones, they could be changing. I mean, during the course of a day, you could have 100 different things on there if
Yeah.
you wanted to. So,
Like satanic corgis.
satanic corgis. So that's good to know. That was a great story. And if just want to say, if you're going to hack a billboard, take some time to think about what you're going to put on there first, because really 1 out of 4 of those was good.
I think they've set the bar here, though. Like, you need to be at least this funny
Yeah.
to ride this ride.
Well,
And,
yeah, but it's not difficult to beat that, is it?
Yeah. I can think of some things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a particularly funny person, but I think even I could beat that.
I appreciated the fact that, I guess other than the gorilla one, the other ones weren't, like, vulgar.
Yeah.
If your kids saw it, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Sometimes they put other things up.
Yes,
that,
that could have taken a very bad turn around the holidays. You don't want to be answering those questions for the kids. All right, well, let's shift gears a little bit. While we have Joe Peacock here, we wanted to ask her some questions that I guess this is a question that you've been getting a lot. So you've been hearing. How do I get involved in ITIL as a trainer? Is that
Well, it's
something
not
you
just
hear
in
a lot?
ITIL, to be honest. I'm not too sure why. I think possibly it's sort of new year, new career. I think, that's where people's minds are going. But for the past few weeks, I have had quite a few inquiries, both sort of on LinkedIn and, email, etc. People asking me, how do I become a trainer? And my first sort of question really is why? Why would you want to do this? Why would you want to put yourself through this?
But is it a train the trainer kind of thing? I mean, are you, when you're, I know that in addition to teaching here at ITProTV and doing the courses for us, you have some contracts that you work on as well. In those situations, are you training end users or are you training the trainer?
Right. So let's put a bit of context to that before I answer that, because yes, I can do train the trainer. However, it's a lot more convoluted than what a lot of people think. And I think, you know, the general sort of feeling amongst everybody is that, oh, I've got the certificates, now I can train because I'm a good people person. I'm good at talking to people, therefore I can train. It's not quite as easy as that. And this doesn't just apply to ITIL, it applies to absolutely any IT accreditation. And I mean, Don's going to back me up on this one, aren't you, Don?
For the most part, yeah.
You know, in order to be able to train in any IT accreditation, whether it is technical, whether it's sort of Unix-based, whether it's, you know, Microsoft-based, whatever, even ITIL governance, you have to have undertaken a train the trainer program. You have to go through a series of training sessions with an accredited trainer's trainer. That sounds a little bit weird, I know, but somebody who is actually a trainer themselves, but who also trains trainers. And there is an art to this. It's not just as easy as standing up in front of a group of people. You have to understand sort of learning techniques. You have to be aware of, you know, simple little things like body language, like, you know, looking out for people's responses, looking to make sure that they're paying attention and they're not like Peter is right now, sort of glazing over and, you know, that, yeah, exactly.
Because of his grand aspirations of becoming a trainer.
I'm just
Right.
thinking, I was thinking, well, who trains the trainer? It kept going from there.
No,
Yeah.
this is an art form. It goes back centuries.
Okay.
But you do have to go through a train the trainer program, and part of that train the trainer program is also a co-teach. And a co-teach means that you have to be physically in a room with your training mentor. You are not teaching a full class at that point in time. What you're teaching is a portion of that class. So maybe I would normally start them off with an hour per day. So on a 3-day class, I'll say, right, well, I want you to take this particular hour, and then I want you to take this hour on the second day and this hour on the third day. And I do that because what I want to be in a position to be able to do is kind of pick up the pieces if something hasn't been covered. So I want to start off with an hour. I want to get confident with that person. And then as we move through into the next training course, then I'll build up their time. And it's only at that point where I'm confident that that particular person can go through the entire class without any intervention and without missing anything. And that's when I would then say to them, right, okay, you are good to be a trainer.
Now, is this your policy you're saying, or is this is the policy for?
No,
how
this
everyone
is
does it?
a standard policy
Okay.
across the board, across all disciplines within IT. Some organizations and some examining institutes, and it depends what it is you want to teach, some will insist then on an assessment, a separate assessment, so not by the person that's actually trained that potential trainer, but by somebody else, maybe somebody from the examining board, who will then come out and assess the new trainer in a class
This
to
almost
make sure they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, this sounds like getting a driver's license or a pilot's license, where you're not just going to throw you in the car after you've read the book, but you're going to sit next to someone who can take over, or push that emergency brake or something.
Right.
And we're talking about ITIL, but this is, you mentioned across the board. Ronnie and I did this for Cisco. We were Cisco Certified Solutions Instructors, CCSIs, and we had to attend a week-long course with it was like a 4-hour lab exercise we had to do at the end, and then we both had to teach for an hour. And they recorded it and reviewed it back at Cisco before we got our authorization, because they want to make sure that you actually know how to speak and communicate and properly explain the topics.
Yeah,
It's a lot
even
of
though
work.
you don't work for Cisco in that situation, you're representing their brand
In a way, yeah.
in a way, and so they want to make sure you're saying things correctly.
And I want to say that Cisco one is actually quite, by the sounds of things, that's quite a light train-the-trainer program, because certainly from a governance perspective, the trainer-trainer programs are a lot more, they're a lot more intense in terms of getting you in front of a class. And that's simply because we want to make sure that you can answer any question that might come your way. And there are a lot of questions that will come your way to do with personal experience, to do with, this is what's happening at work right now, and how do I actually alleviate this situation? What can I do about this particular process? It's not quite working. And what they don't want, what the examining institute don't want really, is anybody stood in front of a classroom and who's just going to recite from a book, because that's not going to answer the query for them. And it's only after you've completed all of that train the trainer that you are then able to train. You're able to teach. Now, some examining institutes will then monitor that trainer's pass rate as well, and want to ensure that that trainer remains relevant, and they'll monitor the pass rates. And if it falls below a certain percentage in any given class, then you might have to go through the process all again. Now, I don't know whether that happens in any of the technical.
Yeah, most of them are focused around making money, so they just care about how many people you teach per year, not necessarily the quality. It's a sad state of affairs. But one thing I wanted to ask you about was, with ITIL, I know there's different levels of the training. So, you start off with like ITIL foundations or practitioners, so that's kind of your entry level, and then it moves up into the more advanced stuff. So if I want to be a trainer just for the low end, just for like ITIL foundations, is it the same process as the high end, or is there a different process for that?
No, it's exactly the same process. And in fact, you cannot train at foundation and level unless you are an ITIL expert yourself. So you have to have achieved ITIL expert, and then you have to, and bearing in mind that you only have to achieve 17 credits to get through to MALC and then become an ITIL expert, if you pass the test, obviously. You don't necessarily have to sit all of the exams in order to be an ITIL expert. So you can only teach the ones that you've passed. Which means that if I hadn't passed my service operation exam, then I couldn't teach that. I could teach the ones that I had passed, but not the ones that I haven't passed. Well, it makes sense. I mean, I want to train a training me that has actually passed the exam, right?
Yeah, going back to my analogy, I don't want to have a driving instructor going, well, I don't know, you don't tell me.
You don't want me flying that helicopter in the rain. You want somebody who's been
I don't want anyone flying in the rain, because that's impossible.
I think the common misconception is that, oh, well, I can get through an exam and I'm a good people person, therefore I can show you how to do something. And that's exactly what we want to avoid. We want to make sure that there's quality in the training that's being delivered. And of course, don't forget, these examining institutes, I mean, they want to keep their pass rates up as well for their students. Because let's think about this logically. If, say, PeopleCert is the examining institute, if every single person that sat the test, well, only 10% of them actually passed that test. What does that say about the test itself? It either says that the training is not particularly great, or it says that the test is not relevant to the subject matter. Well, the first place I would look would be at the trainer and say, well, what have you been teaching them? Because you clearly haven't got through, you haven't got enough skills to be able to get that group of people through the test.
Now, under ITIL version 3, we had ITIL Foundation was kind of where it started. They added practitioner later on, right?
They did, yeah.
And then
only a couple of years ago.
At the intermediate level, you had CSI and all those other ones. How many were there? 7 different mid-level?
So we had 5 life cycle courses, and then we had 4 what we call capabilities, which looked at the actual application and how we adapted a lot of the disciplines within ITIL. So we had 9 at intermediate level, and then we had 1 above that, which was managing across the life cycle. And each one of those, if you passed the particular exam, then you got a certain number of credits, and you had to achieve 17 credits in total before you could sit managing across the life cycle.
All right, so that's 12 different courses that made up that whole process. So if you wanted to be able to teach everything, you need 13, to pass all of those.
Oh, because you got managing across the life cycle as well.
I thought I was counting that. So you had 9.
Oh, we had the bridge as well, which is,
Okay, all right. So, anyhow, so that's a lot. That's changing in ITIL version 4, isn't it?
It is,
Isn't it reducing?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So we're going to, I know that actually did a webinar not too long ago, and I know that we've got some videos on YouTube just to explain what's happening with ITIL 4. As we start off with ITIL 4, in the coming weeks, to be honest, we're going to be introducing ITIL Foundation, which is ITIL 4 Foundation. And then we still split off into two with ITIL 4. So we will actually still go down the two different paths, but the number of exams that you can take is going to be reduced quite significantly. So we're going to have 4 in one stream and 2 in another on the intermediate level, as you might call it that. And then we have the professional levels where there are 2 different exams that not exams, there are 2 different levels. So as we split into the 2 streams, then you will pick, whether you want to be a strategic person or whether you want to be an application person, as I would call it. So looking at the application of ITIL itself. Now, what has changed, and this is where our sort of 13th/14th comes in, is at ITIL master level, which is one above the ITIL expert. And at ITIL master level, we are making changes to that. It hasn't necessarily been decided as yet as to what sort of changes are going to be made, but I can tell you that there are going to be changes, and we no longer have to submit all of the white papers that we would have to do previously for ITIL Master. ITIL Master was a 2-year qualification in version 3. I can tell you it won't be that for version 4.
That's a lot of work. Now, speaking of that change, if somebody out there, one of our viewers, is interested in becoming an ITIL instructor, an actual authorized or accredited instructor, would you recommend they go ahead and start now or wait until the new round? Because the mid-level of ITIL version 4 courses, those aren't out yet.
No.
So is it worth it starting that process now, or is it better to just wait until ITIL version 4 fully drops?
Well, you know what? That was a question I was asked this morning, funnily enough. Exactly that question. And no, I didn't prep him beforehand. That's a tough one. ITIL Foundation for 4 is not quite out yet. It will be out within the next month, but it's not out yet. It hasn't been released quite yet. The new intermediates aren't going to be released until the second half of 2019. If you've got enough credits, if you've got 17 credits and you're just waiting to sit your managing across the life cycle, then I wouldn't wait. I would take it. I would certainly take a look at our series, Managing Across the Life Cycle. Even if you don't want to sit the test, I would certainly watch the series, because that's going to add some context to you for coming into ITIL 4. If you're starting off from scratch, then I would wait until ITIL 4, to be perfectly honest. However, that doesn't stop you from actually watching what we've currently got in our library. You can still do that, but you don't necessarily need to take the exams. That's entirely up to you. I would say, though, if you're starting out from scratch, I would wait.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say I'm lazy, but I'd wait, because it's a couple extra exams you could save right there. a little less effort.
Are you thinking about money here, or are you just thinking about effort?
You got to set attainable goals, right?
So it sounds like, first steps, if we're looking to get into this, is make sure you've got those certifications yourself. And then once you have all those, which you want to wait for ITIL 4, that come back and find a Train the Trainer program and start there.
Now, we don't offer a Train the Trainer program, and we can help you to a certain extent, but we do work with a partner. We work with Passion IT, who's a partner with our ITIL content and our Prince 2 content and anything to do with PeopleCert, and they could certainly help you and assist you with a Train the Trainer program. If that's something that people are genuinely interested in, then we can certainly help. We can put you in touch with the right people, but it's not something that we offer, because quite frankly, we do not have the ability to be able to give you the classroom experience, because of course, we don't go out to that many classrooms.
We could have people come out here, hang out in the studios.
Yeah, but unfortunately,
ITIL
it
groupies.
still wouldn't get them through their assessment.
Exactly.
That happened to me, actually, the other week.
You had an ITIL groupie?
I did, yeah. It was frightening.
It's like the Taylor Swift stalker story, but for ITIL training.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a
It wasn't
thing.
quite as exciting.
Well, Joe mentioned the webinar that we did recently, and that's actually available if you want to go check that out at ITPro.TV/webinars. That was ITIL 2019 and beyond, and we talk about ITIL 4, what's coming in the future there. And actually, a great segue to let you know as well, Joe has another webinar coming up for us. So if you liked what you've heard from Joe today, that's definitely one to check out. And if you didn't like what you heard from Joe, Wes will be there as well as the host. But that's Thursday, January 17th, and it's 10 must-have skills for leadership in IT, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. Eastern, on Thursday, January 17th. Head over to ITPro.TV/webinars to check that out. So any final thoughts, Joe, before we close? Anything else we should let people know about?
Any final thoughts? Well, obviously tune
For
into
today?
all of the ITIL content that we've got. I mean, there's a final thought. I guess that the best advice that I can give anybody is don't give up. If you think that, you've got what it takes to be a trainer, then don't give up on your dreams if that's something that you really, really want to do. But bearing in mind, standing in front of a classroom of people, it can be quite daunting, especially the first time you do it. I mean, you've been there, Don. It's not exactly as simple as you might think. It's one thing sitting, one end of the classroom watching a trainer, but it's quite another thing standing there in front of 30 people who are all looking at you and expecting you to know everything.
Yeah, and are asking questions that are just bizarre and off the wall.
Yeah.
Well, the best answer is to know everything, which you can certainly do by watching Joe's courses over on IT Pro TV. And great segue again. If you want to do that, we've got a special offer for you. If you head over to go.itpro.tv/Technado, we have 7-day free trials for you, as well as a promo code you can use for 30% off your standard monthly membership or your premium membership. And that's for the life of your membership that you can use that promo code. So that will get you that deal for as long as you keep your account. Check it out there. We also have some business information there. So if you're on a team and you want to find out about getting a demo for your team, we can certainly set you up with that. And you can check out all of those ITIL courses with the right account there. So definitely head over to go.itpro.tv/Technado and find out all about that great stuff. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Joe, for joining us today for those interesting news articles and offering us the insight and hopefully answering those questions for the people that have been asking that. That's very helpful stuff.
Well, thank you for having me, especially when we started talking about satanic corgis.
Yeah, you didn't know what your day was going to
I did not,
entail.
no.
Yeah.
No.
And Don, thank you for whatever it is.
Being here.
Yeah. Thank you for all the emails that we're going to get from helicopter pilots telling us about how they can fly. So thank you, all of you, of course, for watching as well. And make sure to leave us a review and let your friends know about this. And I guess the final thought would be pray for your corgis tonight because their souls need it. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week on Technado.
Are you enjoying Technado? Then be sure to check out our other podcast, Ask Me Anything, where our subject matter experts answer your questions. Here's the latest episode, and here's the full playlist. And as always, be sure to subscribe to ITProTV's channel.
ITProTV.